Hello and welcome everyone. The future of business education, like many other streams of higher education, is now in the coming together of two spaces. From breaking silos and stereotypes, management institutes like engineering colleges or med schools will have to and must expand their range of offerings. And today, we've met to discuss one such convergence, MBA Law. The topic of today's discussion is making legal professionals future ready for business. Now, navigating the complex world of companies and businesses forces today's graduates to be conversant in multiple disciplines. And for those who want to get a grip on the legalities of what it takes to run a firm, this would be the perfect program to sign up for. The coming together of law and business would give them a deep dive into two concentrations that are increasingly complementing each other. I'm Himali Chapia, Senior Assistant Editor at the Times of India, and I am joined by a very distinguished panel of those who understand this very nuanced area, MBA Law. So let me introduce everyone who's here with me. I'll start with Dr. Paritosh Basu. He's an academician with a background of 34 years of corporate experience, mainly in finance, strategic planning, and IT-enabled functions. His last two corporate positions were that of Global Group Controller and CFO of two large MNCs of India. Dr. Basu is a full-time senior professor and chairperson of MBA Law of NMIMS University's School of Business Management. He has engaged in several research and consulting activities too, and his current area of his research includes Industry 4.0, digital transformation, blockchain, and CBDC. Dr. Basu is a fellow member of both the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India and the Institute of Cost Accountants of India, and a life member of the Computer Society of India. He was awarded a PhD degree by Calcutta University in 1999. He's a digital evangelist and a management trainer too. He's chaired 4 World Blockchain and AI Summits held in Moscow, Dubai, and India. He's delivered keynote speeches, and he's been a lead panel discussion. He's delivered keynote speeches and lead panel discussion sessions in more than 100 national and international conferences, summits, and webinars. Dr. Basu is an avid management trainer and mentor. He provides consulting services in the area of strategies, corporate transformation and restructuring, digital transformation, risk, and governance management. Welcome, Dr. Basu.
Thank you, Himali.
Next, I have with me Professor Shanker Subramoney. Professor Subramoney is a management consultant in the functional areas of marketing, commercial and legal, supply chain, and international business. He's an adjunct faculty with several dream institutions like IIM Bangalore, a visiting faculty at IIM Shillong and IIM Udaipur, IIM Vizag, and IIM Ahmedabad, teaching subjects related to commercial law, international trade, and management consulting. Professor Subramoney brings a multifunctional, multi-industrial experience of more than 25 years, having worked with Shaw Wallace, Hindustan Lever, Ecolab, and Avon Facility Management Services. Professor Subramoney has a degree in commerce, a degree in law, 2 postgraduate diplomas, one in human resources and the other in international trade. He's been actively teaching for the past 8 years and also conducts regular training workshops for large industrial houses like L&T, Vedanta, Bosch, Oil India, etc. I'd like to say that one of our speakers, Mr. Kalyan Chakravarthy, could not join us because of a bereavement in his family. We have instead with us Professor Daswani, who's been teaching law at the Government Law College, Mumbai for 25 years. He's a faculty advisor and responsible for the publication of the Law Review, Government Law College, the premier academic journal of the college. He's a founder member of the Securities Law course at the college. Over the past few years, he's taught a host of subjects, including arbitration and conciliation, company law, taxation, Hindu law, industrial law, transfer of property, environmental law, and particularly specializes in contract law and criminal law. He's also a teacher at the Masters in Public Policy program, Human Rights and Business Law at St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. He also lectures at NLS in Bangalore. In the past, he's taught at the University of Navarra in Spain and has conducted lectures at the Maharashtra Judicial Academy, Uttan, Mumbai, and at Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. He teaches international and humanitarian law at Rotary Peace Center in a university in Thailand. How can a panel like this be complete without a lawyer? So here I have my next panelist, Mr. Nandan Pyne. Uh,
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Pendsey. He is a partner and he co-heads a firm's intellectual property practice. He's earned his BSL LLB degree at the prestigious ILS Law College in Pune in 2001 and further earned his master's degree LLM in intellectual property from Franklin Pierce Law Center, New Hampshire, USA. Mr. Pendsey is a registered patent agent with a technical background in biotechnology. He specializes in IP litigation, enforcement, IP transactions, licensing, IP prosecution, managing IP portfolios, and brand protection. He also has extensive experience in the area of information technology, data privacy, outsourcing, cyber law, registration, protection, and enforcement of domain names, and other internet related issues, including jurisdictional and enforcement issues and ISP liability. Clients praise him for his in-depth knowledge of legal and regulatory landscape in India, recommending him for his strategic and commercial advice. Um, uh, Welcome, Mr. Pendsey. I am going to start without further
Thank
ado.
you.
I'm going to start today's webinar, and I'd like to start with you, Dr. Basu. Tell me a bit about this program, MBA Law. Why was a program like this conceived, and did a demand like this, come from the industry for such graduates?
Okay, thank you, Himali. And I also thank my co-panel members for joining us in this evening for doing this webinar along with us. Okay, let me tell you, NMIMS University is known for its unique programs, and NMIMS School of Business Management in its checkered history for about last 40 years have always been in touch with the industry, having eyes and ears on the ground, of course, looking at the foreseeable future. NMIMS University has introduced already many unique such programs like MBA Tech, which was introduced about 10 years back in our MPSTME, our engineering school, and today it is one of the most sought after technology come MBA program of India. MBA Law is also similar kind of a program which was introduced about 5 years back. NMIMS has introduced recently an integrated entrepreneurship and family business program. So we are always in touch with industry. We are always in touch with the ground level people. And also we are in always having a foreseeable future kind of a site where we try to understand what the emerging business ecosystem will require in terms of business leaders and managers for the future. Our thinking process is very, very simple, that lawyers are no longer much needed for litigations management. And it is for the good of humanity that litigations are reduced, and that is left to the domain of only penal codes and civil codes. Rest of the things for the industry, trade and commerce should be settled through a peaceful process of lawyers and legal management. So essentially, the think tank and the leadership of NMIMS academia sat on several occasions and thought through that what we should do for law students. In any case, we have a law school in 5 different campuses, but we thought that lawyers should be ready with business insights, and they should be brought away from litigation management to the business domain for business strategy formulation, management of environment, safety, compliance, and governance. They should be business risk manager in various domains. They should be investment bankers. They should be strategists in terms of growth, sustainability, IPR management. Lawyers in any case have got a lot of talking skill, but talking skills are not only the soft skill which are required. Lawyers should have emotional intelligence. Lawyers should have a lot of questions in terms of mental intelligence, also not only from the logic point of view, but from the business point of view. Lawyers should allow business to be run peacefully. Lawyers should make it possible for the CEO, CFO, and operating managers to operate their business in a risk-free, compliance-oriented environment. So NMIMS one fine morning thought that why not we form a core group. We call it Board of Studies. So we formed a core group with very eminent 3 senior lawyers. One of them is a practicing advocate. 2 very senior finance professionals for Big Four firms. Our own area chair professors from marketing, finance, operations research, decision science management, economics, human resource management, etc., etc. And we locked ourselves in a room for several hours. And Nandan was one of our founder BOS members, Mr. Nandan Pyne, who is a member of this panel also. So we thought, if we want to call a program called Master of Business Administration in Law, which will be a full-time on-campus 2 years degree program sufficient for postdoctoral study anywhere in the world, what should we do? So we handed over to them a course structure, and from there the journey started, and it had never stopped. Originally, it was kind of a concept selling. And now industry has started understanding the beauty and the boutique nature of this program. Originally, it was a concept selling to the parents of students also. Now, the program has got wider publicity and industry has started holding hands with us. I'll come more on it as we go ahead with the program.
Thank you, Dr. Basu. Professor Shanker Subramoney, that brings me to you, as Dr. Basu said, that initially a program like this was more of, a concept that they were selling to students and parents, but now industry is really opened up and, looking at the complex nature of business, looking at the several new dimensions, the new kinds of businesses that we have, we've moved far away from the traditional ways in which business functions. You teach law at several IIMs. So I wanted to ask you, in that short 16 or 18 credit program, is that good enough to equip students with the legal knowledge required for a lifetime that they spend as managers?
Well, Himali, the question is, this program that, NMIMS is offering MBA Law, has a substantial amount of time being invested in teaching lawyers about business. That is one aspect, as compared to the regular business schools that teach law, right? Okay? The regular business schools focus about 20 to 30 hours in teaching law. The focus is more on management over there. Right? We got very little of law. And therefore, many managers from the regular business schools, right, do not have an understanding of law. They don't have. And it is very, very, relevant that managers of today have a sound grounding in law. Because with technology advancements, right, one of the biggest things that is required today is compliance and transparency. Compliance is the most important thing if we need to grow. And you need to know the law in order to be transparent. In order to be compliant, you need to know it. So this program, which NMI is offering, right, MBA Law, is very, very relevant. The reason being is that There are students of law who know the concept of law, who know the system of law, right? Who know the legal framework in the country. What they don't have is concept understanding about aspects of business, which means that they need to be taught concepts relating to finance, they need to be taught concepts relating to HR, concepts relating to marketing, sales, right? And more importantly, concepts relating to operations. Now, this will give them a very, very holistic, right, approach to understanding business. And that, I believe, is the key takeaway of this program. And therefore, 16 subjects, right, is being taught. And more than about 900 hours is invested in this program teaching law, which is, in my opinion, is substantial, right? And I can say that, it is definitely going to take them a long way, because studying is something that is never finished in business. You can't say that I finished studying. You're constantly learning, you're constantly studying. So what is coming to them is extremely exhaustive, right? And extremely value added, because they are going to be taught, things that in a very small capsule, they're going to be taught management, right? Which is what is the most important thing. So I feel that this program is loaded, and substantial for a lawyer to learn about business and get into the management field. That is my understanding and my take on this.
Thank you, Professor Subramoney. So very clearly, the MBA schools of India are really not preparing managers to join and understand in depth the legalities required in a business house. So, Professor Daswani, I'd like to come to you then. You come from a law school. So, how popular is corporate law? And what kind of students are interested in this law? And if this is becoming popular, and do you feel that the law program is doing justice and equipping students to be ready for businesses?
So, well, Himali, this is a very interesting program. When you called me, and I didn't realize this was going to be, exactly this. And there's something I really love to talk about. So what we're looking at here is, are we teaching lawyers business, or are we teaching business to lawyers? That's a twofold line here. So having taught in BMS programs, in Bombay, and exactly what, Professor Subramoney was saying, we are teaching them just sufficient law so that they know what they don't know. So they just have to be sufficiently cautious that, look, I can't do this business transaction. There are these laws that I got to address. So that's exactly, it's kind of a cosmetic approach to B schools when law is taught to them in those N number of credits. Now, coming to law schools. Now, first of all, I do not think any law school prepares any law student to be a lawyer. And that is a global thing. That is why it is called the practice of law. And I'm sure Nandan will agree with me, when kids come out of law school, they really know nothing. So they have to kind of practice and get down there. But having said that, they do need certain basics in law school. Now, typically when a student graduates from law school, he's probably going to take criminal law, he's going to take corporate law, or he's going to take litigation and real estate. I mean, these are the three fields that he's likely to take. So question, does he need to know business for any one of them? And the answer is true, that he needs to understand business and trade and commerce and economics for all of them. A criminal lawyer today needs to understand economic offenses. See, and he needs to be able to understand, how does a company operate. A corporate lawyer, necessarily. A person who's in litigation is going to be dealing with a matter that involves N number of business houses getting together to structure deals, so on and so forth. Now, the specific question that you asked me about corporate law, it is very, very popular. In fact, corporate law is the one that is driving people to law schools and creating these high entrance rates, because corporate law is where the money is. And a lot of people are, lured by the lucre, if I may say so, and they want to become corporate lawyers, and you make a phenomenal amount of money. Now, let's see law school itself. It spends about 1 or 2 semesters teaching you company law. And the student is expected to make all his moolah over the next, 10, 15, 20 years based on what he learns in the 2 semesters. I want to tell you, Himali, some of the law students from some law schools don't know how to read a balance sheet. Now, here you're going to thrust him into a corporate firm and going to tell him, hey, you know what, there's an acquisition happening here. There's a merger between two companies. Can they do this? And the Johnny says, you know what, I don't understand this balance sheet. And that's when he turns around and finds somebody called the CA. And so, there are these three verticals in any commercial transaction. There's a chartered accountant, there's the MBA, and there's the lawyer. Each one is thoroughly convinced that he's God's gift to that transaction. The CA will say, look, you cannot do this anything until I tell you whether the tax clearance is. The MBA says, we designed everything. The lawyer says, you know what, I'm structuring the deal. So between these three, if I can club at least two sets of skill sets, two skill sets into one person, look at the tremendous value I can add to my client. So if we are looking at teaching business fundamentals, understanding the structure of a company, understanding economics, understanding how to read a balance sheet to law students, it is phenomenal. And that is the reason why I do believe that the 3-year law program, which students do after they do a BMS, a management or a BCom, and then do the 3-year law, probably turns out better corporate lawyers than a 5-year law program, because most of the 5-year law programs do not give you a grounding in business. And that's why, Mr. Basu, I've not seen your program. I've just landed up here, but I'm sure when you say MBA in law, I'm sure
I'll supplement your point after you finish.
Yeah, I'm sure it must be, exactly catering to the need today, what corporate houses want. That, I don't need to explain to a lawyer everything. There's certain basic fundamental knowledge he should carry, and he should be able to deliver the transaction up there. Of course, Mr. Basu, there's very likelihood that, you're going to be threatening some of the pure MBAs, when you churn out, with lawyers.
For them. Himali, in my next round, after Nandan gives his initial comments, I will come back and address the issues which Professor Daswani has raised.
Fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I'm done. Thanks.
Thank you, Professor Daswani. So clearly there is a gap. B schools are not preparing their graduates to join businesses, and lawyers are not obviously being taught the tools of management, which brings me to you, Mr. Pendsey. Yesterday when we were having a mock session, you said exactly what Mr. Daswani, it almost felt like, he was echoing your thoughts, and you said that so many people don't know how to read a balance sheet. Tell me a bit, for our audience, many of them who may be lawyers, who may be looking at a program, to sign up for a program like this, why is it important, to pick up the tools of business for a lawyer? One understands that an MBA graduate does not understand law. A law graduate does not understand maybe, the tools of, finance. But is it really important when you're working in a law firm? Do you really need to have these tools? And if you could throw some light on that, Mr. Pendsey.
Sure, absolutely. No. So, I think I would like to break this down probably into 3 different silos. I think the question which you asked me is, and then therefore I'll address the question in relation to the lawyers first. But even within the legal community, the way I look at it, does this program give you value addition? And the answer is resounding yes. And I'll tell you how. If you're a 5-year graduate or a 3-year graduate, the moment you're working for a corporate as an in-house lawyer, or having an independent practice, or you're working in a litigation firm, the fact of the matter is, in this 5-year course or in this 3-year course, you're taught the very, very basics of certain dynamic and certain upcoming laws and practice areas which are emerging, which we have seen emerging in the last 5 years, and which are going to boom in the next 1 or 2 decades. And all of those practice areas are covered in this MBA law course. I will just give you 3 to 4 illustrations. 1, data privacy law. That's going to be huge. That's going to be big. We have already seen that efforts are being made by the Indian Parliament to basically pass the personal data protection bill to get in compliance and get on the same realm or the same platform as the European law of GDPR. all countries are doing it. In fact, India is lagging behind because there are at least 100 countries who have their own data privacy laws by now. The second is, IT laws, the laws which deals with, Bitcoins, securitization laws, and even advanced levels of intellectual property law. Now, none of these laws, and these are just some small examples I'm giving you, which are part of the MBA law course, but none of these laws are really taught either in the 5-year course or in the 3-year course. And in order to be a successful and successful lawyer, I would not say a corporate lawyer, because if you want to understand and deal with the kind of regulatory compliances and the litigations we are facing nowadays, one needs to have at least a basic understanding of all these laws, whether you're working for a company, whether you're running your own law firm. Now, unless you're so sure and clear in your mind that I want to do this 5-year course and I eventually want to be a litigation lawyer, appear before the courts, and then I can handle any matter I want. All senior counsels, Mr. Harish Salve in the Supreme Court, doesn't specialize in any law. So, unless you have that conceptual clarity, where you might want to argue that, I really don't need any advanced courses, but otherwise, in order to be future ready, in order to, add value to the job you're doing as part of a law firm or as part of a corporate, I think it is important to have basic understanding of these subjects and these practice areas, which are unfortunately not taught in any of the LLB courses. I think that's one. And the second thing is, I think somebody already pointed it out, that India is becoming a highly litigious society. We are moving in the US direction, unfortunately, in the last decade or so. I think, every 6 months, there are a huge number of laws which are passed. Compliances are increasing at all levels. And therefore, it is important that even management side people have basic understanding of law and basic understanding of how the rules and the compliances work. So even for managers, I think it is a very important tool in their hands. So all in all, I feel that this is a course which would equip definitely the legal community and the lawyers to think like a businessman and to know what is important in a corporate transaction or in a corporate deal, so that they can appreciate and value add. And similarly for managers, to have basic grounding at least in some of these other emerging laws.
That's a great perspective coming from a lawyer. Dr. Basu, like you said, you'll address some of the points that Professor Daswani raised earlier. I'd like to also, apart from that, I'd like to ask you a question, and correct me if I'm wrong, but earlier I thought we are looking at a very, very specialized course. But now I understand that clearly this was a gap in the market that, university like NMIMS has identified and brought in a program. But is this really for the masses? I mean, does every lawyer wanting to get into a corporate house or every cost accountant wanting to get a grip on the legalities of business needs to do a program like this?
Good question, Himali. And let me ask you one point. Like a chartered accountant is a business manager, a marketing manager is a business manager, an operations manager in factory is a business manager, a lawyer is also a business manager, right? Because he is contributing to the values of the business and he's understanding the nuances of the business. So if you have to be a business manager, first you have to have business insights. First, you have to have business intelligence. First, you have to have understanding of what is business. So please permit me to share a presentation, couple of slides. So look at this particular slide, which is giving us a very interesting understanding of what is this course consisting about. It has got a solid foundation on 16 laws. Now, these 16 laws, I'll show you what are these, are essentially from the perspective of corporates. Now, you cannot tell me, and I cannot tell you, and even lawyers in consulting firms also cannot say that they don't deal with business litigations. If you are dealing with an M&A, if you are dealing with an IPO, if you are dealing with a investment banking, a funding program, essentially you have to deal with a business, right? Now, I did two IPOs, one in India and one in London Stock Exchange, FTSE 100 series. And I was given a prospectus of 500 pages. Suppose I have an MBA law with me and a pure lawyer with me. If I give the 500-page prospectus, or for a mergers and acquisition deal, a 400-page SPA and SHA, share purchase agreement and shareholders agreement, to a pure lawyer and an MBA law, what output I'm going to get? A pure lawyer is going to see the pages which deals with the legal aspects. A pure chartered accountant will take it from the perspective of the finance and finance-oriented areas. Look at the MBA law, what he is studying. He is studying 16 courses on law. 16 courses on law he is studying. He is supported by 9 courses in finance, 2 courses in marketing, 4 in human resources, 3 in communication. These communication courses are delivered on a clinical method, 2 in decision sciences, and 4 on business strategy, economics, and environment. And he is also doing an independent research of 6 credit paper of his own choice. He is supported by internship of 6 weeks in a corporate house, and every single course out of these 40 courses, you can now make out that 20 courses are drawn from the MBA program and 16 courses are drawn from the legal side. And all these laws are high-level corporate laws. So essentially, he is being taught not in a theoretical mode. The pedagogy is classroom discussions, project assignments, individual presentations, corporate projects, and also workshops supplemented by lots and lots of workshops. Finally, we have footfalls on every fortnight from various industry leaders in legal and other professions who will supplement and complement the classroom teachings. So essentially what we are teaching in MBA law, what we are covering is a solid foundation of laws which touch the corporate. And from there, these are the legal papers we are teaching in trimester 3. These are the paper we are teaching in trimester 2. And these are the paper we are teaching in trimester 1. So what you will see, Nandan was talking about cyber laws. We are having international taxation also. We are having FDIs also of international trade, bankruptcy and insolvency, infrastructure development and compliance. So essentially what we are teaching here are areas which a corporate business house or in a consulting firm like Nandan's area or AZBN partners, name any consulting economic law practices, they essentially deal with these laws when they deal with their corporate clients. On the same time, on the managerial side, there are many managerial programs. And our management subjects are drawn from the core management subjects, right? Again, you come to year 2, alternate dispute resolution and economic offenses, which is essentially white collar crimes we teach. Similarly, in trimester 5, we have financial market, mergers and acquisition and restructuring. This mergers and acquisition as a subject, we teach twice, one from the perspective of finance strategy, due diligence, and deal management and post-merger integration, and one full paper on M&A laws. So what I'm trying to tell Himani, that this particular course, which or program or curricula, whatever way you call it, is making an application-oriented business manager with a strong foundation on law and having lots of skill set inculcated into him with the help of one project of 25 to 30 marks on each course. All 40 courses have one project compulsorily. And our teachers are bringing in subject matter experts. Our teachers are not typical tutors who are born academicians. Most of our law papers are taught by practicing advocates or corporate lawyers. So essentially, it's a concoction of law, business with application oriented around it. That is what is MBA Law.
Thanks, Dr. Basu. But I had one question as a follow-up. You know, you said that your faculty members, a lot of them are corporate lawyers. Clearly, this is the first program and one of its kind that NMIMS came up with 5 years ago. So earlier, are you saying corporate lawyers did not need training like this? I mean, or how did they upskill themselves and understand,
I
business?
will tell it from the perspective of a CFO, Himali. I was a
Right.
CFO. I used to have in my team fresh graduates from IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore. I used to have chartered accountants with few years experience, and I used to deal with lawyers nominated to my department to help the finance department. Now, someone said that there are three functions. If they are combined, he becomes a perfect corporate business legal manager. So MBA Law is such a program. So if a CFO has to give a comment on the prospectus or a funding deal or an M&A deal or an IPR deal, he has to pass the document through or the proposal or the strategy or the execution plan through three different skill sets, professional groups, lawyers, chartered accountants, and business managers. Here is a guy, if he's after MBA Law, if he's trained for 2-3 years in business, he's a future ready business manager.
Right, right. Thank you, Dr. Basu. So then, taking on from what Dr. Basu said, Professor Subramoney, the IIMs are among, the best public business schools that we have in our country. How come they've never really felt the need to look at this space? Does it have anything to do with the fact that most of the kids who get into into these schools have a background of engineering? I mean, just checking, why have they not really entered this space?
Good question.
Well, see, traditionally, management has always been, consisting of four pillars of marketing, finance, operations, and HR. So, historically, I would always focus on these four. You see, other areas are complementing them. This is the thought. For example, law complements business, right? And that is why many of the IIMs have not focused on the law, because if they did that, then they would become law schools, right? Where would you have management schools? So IIMs traditionally and MBA institutes traditionally also, you got a two-tier, institutes which are there other than the IIMs, have focused primarily on the management functions. Now, there is a huge need for that, okay? And therefore, they have continued and they have specialized in that. Now, there is a need that has been felt in the last couple of years, especially after technological upgradations that have happened across the world, right? Fortunately, NMIMS has come up with a fantastic program like this, wherein we are actually looking at making holistic managers. And that is, the first mover advantage that I would say. And I'm very, very sure that IIMs, in due course of time, are going to come up with these kind of programs, right? And offer it. For example, there are, programs that are offered in finance. You got a 1-year program in finance. You got a 1-year program in supply chain. You got a 1-year program in digital management. So similarly, I believe that IIMs might come in. But as of now, yes, we do have this gap. And that gap is basically, present. There is in much. Because we have now realized that law is an omnipresent in business.
You can't move a step without a lawyer by your side. That is the way the world is
That's
moving.
the point. That's the point.
Absolutely. In fact, when you said that, law is very important, yeah, earlier they used to say in a family you need to have a doctor. If you have a child, at least, and you have children, at least one should be a doctor. But the number of litigations, that are there right now, uh, I will recall something that, I heard somebody said that, forget doctor, you need a lawyer in the house, because I have three children and somebody told me, please make one person a lawyer. And lawyer was number one. They said journalist chhod do, but yeah, lawyer definitely one of them. Jokes apart, Professor Subramani, is there anything? Sorry, we interrupted you, but is there
No, no,
anything?
no, no, no. So, I mean, adding to what you just said, that while lawyers have a very strong foundation, right, on the procedural side of law, 5-year course will given a very good foundation for him on the procedural side. What is very, very important is on the substantiative side. The substantiative side is the concept. Now, a program like this, which focuses on laws relevant to business, combined with concept understanding of subjects related to business, makes somebody, right, a very, very strong contender to manage business. You see, we need to have sustainable businesses. And a program like this will make, people own sustainable businesses.
May I add risk-enable, peaceful, future-oriented, sustainable business? It has to be risk-enabled, it has to be peaceful, it has to be compliance-oriented, it has to be safety-oriented, it has to be society-oriented business management.
Absolutely.
And who can do all these things? You have a strong foundation on law, supported by an MBA level foundation of business management with 24 subjects on it and a full research paper to your knowledge. What you are coming out is an excellent hand for the CEO or the CFO. If I felt the need of it, let me tell you, I used to send the prospectus to a lawyer. I used to get comment on 200 pages. I used to send prospectus to my company secretary and chartered accountant. I get another 150 pages. Who is going to see the balance pages? Who is going to help me on the investment banking aspect? Who is going to help me on the business management aspect? So I felt the need when I went for London Stock Exchange FTSE 100 series issue of a $1.9 billion issue. And that is why I am here at chairing the program for the last 5 years and trying to make it more popular in India and doing the boutique program concept selling. I would like to hear more now from Professor Daswani.
I am going to him. So, Professor Daswani, looking at the discussion that we've had thus far, I wanted to, and you said earlier that, corporate law was popular and a lot of students want to get into it. So, after they pass out of law school, what is the kind of feedback that you get from recruitment firms? Are these graduates, prepared, not prepared? They need upskilling. If you can shed some light on that, that'd be great.
Okay, Himali. So first, the comment that you made earlier, about lawyers and doctors. So please note, every family must have a gentleman in a white coat and one gentleman in a black coat. If you want to really survive, and that is really mandatory.
Thanks so much.
At least have
Yes,
somebody in the
very
friends.
well said.
Yeah. Now, coming to the question you asked me, I think law firms are under no illusion that the law students of today are work ready. I mean, let me assure you, they are under no illusion. They do allow them internships over the 5-year, the 3-year period, and they let them grow on the job. They give them training. They have a large number of workshops. In fact, there are some programs that really talk of a business for lawyers. There are special certificate programs and diploma programs to train lawyers for the business. So in that case, are our laws, in fact, I can very safely tell you that a law graduate from Harvard Law School also is not eligible to practice in a law firm unless he's had at least 6 to 8 months of on-hand training. I mean, that is just the way the profession is. Typically, you learn maybe, 30 acts, 35 acts through your period of law school. And in India, there are 1,000 acts. So a lawyer literally has to be a learner for life. He has to keep learning different laws as they come about, and the newer laws that Nandan spoke about. They're going to keep coming, and you have to upskill yourself constantly. What Mr. Basu did say about this MBA in law. I have a few apprehensions, and if you don't mind, could I throw them up, Mr. Basu?
Yeah, kindly.
Yeah. So obviously, this doesn't give you the permission to practice as a lawyer. This is just an MBA program.
I'll answer this straight away. 90% of our incoming students are law graduates.
Oh, they're law graduates. Okay.
Four group of people can join: lawyers, chartered accountants, company secretaries, and cost accountants.
Correct.
And 90% of our students are lawyers.
So wonderful. So that obviously this shows that you are teaching business to lawyers, rather than you're teaching law to business persons predominantly. So that I think that is a wonderful thing, because a lot of lawyers, after they do join the corporate field, they ultimately become in-house counsels for law firms. For corporate houses. And there's a large demand for big corporate houses have got extensive teams, because they do not want to raise their expenses by going to law firms for any small thing. So I do think that this program would hugely support even people who've probably got, as I'm hearing more and more about this program, a lawyer who's got 4 years, 5 years work ex, 8 years work ex could actually take this MBA program, upscale himself to, be more productive or valuable to.
Sorry for interruption. They come generally with 3 to 4 years experience. Some are fresh.
Right.
Some come with 2 to 3 years, 4 years experience.
Right. So in that case, I'm sure this program would cater to that little vacuum that we were talking about in that case. And to further answer, your case, Emali, what I told earlier is that is why it is called the practice of law. You see, so it's unless you actually do it. The other thing is, even if you join a corporate law firm, you're going to be doing contracts. You're going to be dishing out 30, 40, 50 page, 200 page contracts. And you'll be very happy that you've drafted a great contract. And you're very content. When two parties sign a contract, the contract goes into the drawer. It never surfaces. Parties honor their commitments. 5 years later, one of the parties wants to breach the contract. And that's where the contract reaches a court. And that's where the lawyer discovers, oops, he could have done that drafting better. So, the entire structure of a lawyer's life has to gel with what he's doing in the firm, as well as how his drafting is tested in the court and how the judge is looking at the contract, which he thought he made beautifully. So, the entire profession of law does take you from the corporate comfort, a corporate firm's comfort, to litigation and back if you do want to be a complete lawyer. And naturally, the vacuum, as I said, about not being able to read a balance sheet, maybe this MBA program will fill up that vacuum for practicing lawyers. I think it would be great. Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Daswani. Then, that brings me to you, Mr. Pendsey. When you hire people, or when law firms hire graduates, what kind of clients would need lawyers who understand business? And, if you can throw some light on the kind of industry verticals that would need, need a graduate who's done MBA law.
Sure. So, see, essentially, as law firms, we hire lawyers at multiple levels, right? And that is completely driven by demand. Most of our placements happen at the junior level or at the fresh grade level, because, you have to mentor them and see to it that they then grow into their roles to become mid-level associates, senior associates, and eventually partners. So a bulk of really the placement happens when a lawyer comes fresh out of his law school. But then there are lateral placements also, which happen throughout the year, and that completely depends on the specific requirement. But for this MBA law, I would say, especially if a candidate is interested in working on corporate transactions, I think the kind of subjects and the kind of skill sets that lawyer will learn in this MBA law degree would come really handy. And again, I would say that there is a difference in the thought process, right? Sometimes, because we say that we are moving towards the age of specialization. I myself, I'm a You can call me an intellectual property specialist. But somebody told me that being jack of all trades is not a bad thing today. In fact, if a manager knows and has legal knowledge, and similarly, if a lawyer just does not stick to his own practice area, but has a 360-degree view of the other laws, I think that is going to be immensely beneficial for him or her in his practice of profession. And again, it depends on where you are placed and what role do you see yourself in. These skill sets can be handy immensely, as Professor Daswani also said, to a typical in-house counsel, because more and more, whether it is a in-house counsel or whether it is a law firm lawyer, more and more you have to think like a businessman, and you have to give a solution-oriented approach which fits within the four corners of the law. So gone are those days when legal solutions can be devoid from reality. And I think a person who studies MBA law, I think, will be equipped to think like that. So I think I would say that it really depends on what the role is. It really depends on the demand, and it depends on the role. But I see a role both as an in-house counsel as well as in the law firm, depending on what kind of specialization and what kind of subject matter expertise that candidate wants. So I think Mr. Daswani wants to say something.
Yeah,
Yes.
in fact, I just want to completely agree with you, Nandan. You remember in the good old days, the legal department of corporate houses and banks used to be a post office. They would get the matter, they would just send it to the solicitor's office, they would get the opinion back and hand it over to the board of directors. They were just like any matter would come. They say, we do not want to give an opinion on this. Let the solicitor give the opinion, as a matter of safety, and today that has completely changed, that. So I just wanted to add, am I right, Nandan? Would you?
Absolutely. And it's moving towards being law department within organizations also developing their own skill sets, specialized skill sets. Now, for example, you will see pharmaceutical firms.
Absolutely.
Most of their patent filings are done in-house. They don't hire external lawyers. Most of the trademark portfolios at big FMCG firms or pharma firms are handled internally. Contracts are handled internally. So they are moving towards that. Also, this helps immensely in lowering down the litigation related or the counsel related expenses. So that also works in their favor.
And
Yeah.
yeah. So, and adding to what Mr. Nandan just said, one of the most important things that I have observed is, the latest thing of what is called as alternate dispute resolution mechanisms. You see, ADRs are the go-to today. We don't appreciate litigation very much because the feeling of the public is a court is a place of expense and suspense.
And it's super lengthy.
Yeah, so it's a place of expense and suspense. You have no idea you're going to come out. So today we require a lot of lawyers to learn about ADRs. And if they need to learn about ADR, they need to learn about business first.
Yeah.
And that is where this program comes in.
Absolutely.
You see, and we need to move in that direction. Because going to court is overburdening the legal system. But we've got so many things to think about. Right?
Correct.
So I think, adding to what Nandan and Mr. Daswani said, is that we need to move away from litigation into ADRs and look at how we can build ADRs into our system so that decision making is faster and go to market is faster. Yes, sir.
Yes, Dr. Basu.
You could have completed, Shankarji. Let me tell you one thing. There is another thing coming up in this new world order, and that is digital transformation. We have already National Institute of Sovereign Governance and various other authorities, IMF, International Bank of Settlement. Everybody is coming up with the blockchain as one of the most important area. And this supported by artificial intelligence and another 8 deep technologies. In blockchain, there is a concept called smart contract. And there is a concept called super smart contract because there will be interoperability of various blockchains into one. Let me tell you, unless you have sufficient knowledge of how a business operates, made in the supply chain area, international trade, B2B contract, B2C contract, e-commerce, you will not be able to draft those smart contracts. Fintech, drafting a terms and conditions for a B2C customer or a B2B customer joining in a fintech platform is to have sufficient knowledge about technology. No technology paper is taught in a law school. We also teach technology paper. We teach statistics. We teach decision sciences. We teach how to read an Excel output. So essentially what Shanker Subramoney was giving is a 360-degree approach. We need peace. We don't want to go to court and wait for 10, 15 years for a decision. We need to solve through our dialogue. How can I have a dialogue unless I have an understanding of the business? What is the foundation of drafting a contract clause? It's the business. Wish I would have drafted the clause much better. That means I would have understood the perspectives of business, right?
And adding to what Professor Basu just said, right, is the fact that today there are huge opportunities, right, which the government has thrown open in the concept of smart cities.
Yes.
Right? Now, smart cities is giving us a huge opportunity for the legal profession to actually get in and ensure that smart contracts, because the whole thing depends on smart contracts. I think this is
digitally embedded smart contracts.
Exactly, embedded smart contract. You need to draft that. So I think that there is a huge opportunity for people passing out of this course, right, to fill up those gaps that are there needed in the economic and business environment. So, I mean, this is where I feel that there's a lot of value add.
So, Professor Daswani and Professor Subramani, Dr. Basu, Mr. Pendsey, I wanted to ask, if each of you can one after the other respond to this. Clearly, we have businesses that are evolving over time, but have, laws, law schools rather, or law as a subject in business schools evolved over time. I mean, Dr. Basu, you have MBA Law, but within NMIMS, you also have an MBA program.
That is our flagship program, 600 students.
Exactly. I too aspired once to get into that. So I wanted to ask you, when you teach law in that program, has the section of law kept in, has that evolved with the changing times? Has that got things on fintech or blockchain that you just mentioned, or do students have to do MBA Law?
Good question. Let me put it this way. I teach two subjects as an elective paper in MBA program. One is mergers and acquisition, and one is private equity and venture capital. Similarly, many of my colleagues teach investment banking and marketing, etc. What we do as a law as a paper, there is only one paper in our entire MBA core program. And whenever we find that there is a need for giving some legal orientation to this course, we do a 3-hour workshop. We bring a practicing lawyer who is dealing with private equity or venture capital, or who is dealing with mergers and acquisition, and do a 3 hours workshop for the students, which is in addition to my 20 classes of 80 minutes, and give them that legal orientation so that they have some amount of idea that what are the barriers of law or boundaries of law I have to remain, but they don't get any in-depth knowledge. Whereas in MBA Law, we teach mergers and acquisition in 2 papers. One is the hardcore MBA paper, which I teach in elective as an MBA core program. Same subject I teach in MBA Law as another. Plus additional, there is one full law paper on M&A and corporate restructuring. So point I'm trying to say, core MBA gives supplementary knowledge of law if it is necessary for a paper by your workshop inputs. But MBA law, it is on the foundation of 16 law, 20 papers of management. I think there will be questions coming from the audience, so we should give them a chance to also talk about. Yes, Himali, you are having a plan for that, I believe.
Absolutely. But before that, Professor Subramani, has law as a subject in management schools evolved over time to stay in touch with the realities of today's business?
Yes, they have. They have. And the curriculum in IIMs, I mean, since I teach there, I can quote from that, is that the curriculum constantly is, being looked at and made relevant to current management education. Now, as Professor Basu just rightly said, in an MBA school, there is a law paper and there it ends, right? So, wherever required, then we would bring in certain aspects of law to teach. For example, there's a paper on mergers and acquisitions. Now, law is one portion of that big subject. So we might bring in a guest lecture or we might have a workshop, to basically teach that and be done with it. The problem with general management schools is that there is no structured input of law into various functions. That is a gap that is there, and that is where this gap is being filled up. Right? But I can tell you one thing very confidently, is that we are up to date, in the sense that if there is something that is happening in, the insolvency and bankruptcy law, well, the professor teaching that subject is aware about it and the students are aware about it. But are they aware in a structured manner? No.
Right.
That is the gap. That's the gap.
Great. Anybody that would like to add anything to that?
Well, I might just add a bit. It's since I teach at the BMS program, which is the undergraduate management program. Of course, Mr. Subramani teaches at the IIM. There is a limitation to how much law you can teach to business kids. There's a limitation, and there's a little bit of a curtain. There's look, just teach us enough. Don't teach us more. We don't want to get into this. We don't want to engage with the law. So very honestly, although we try and amend the curriculum, change it, push it, etc., deep inside, we know we are doing a bit of cosmetic duty at that particular ground. And so to be very honest, I don't think business schools, as I said earlier, we just teach them enough for them to know that they need to call up a lawyer when they hit a wall. So we just need them to be aware कि भाई income tax law होता है, labor law होता है. We just teach them enough to know that don't proceed unless you speak to the right people. That's the way I feel about it. Yeah.
Right, like a using a first aid kit, maybe, if I were to put it in.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. I think that's been a great conversation. We have a few questions from the audience. And Dr. Basu, I think you will have to take this. This is from Mohit Sarogi, who is asking, can you give some details about the admission criteria into the MBA law program? Does it have an entrance exam or is it on first come, first basis? They do understand that, somebody needs to be a lawyer or a cost accountant to be a part of this program.
Okay, good question. Let me tell you, all this information which I'll be talking to you are there in our website, but nonetheless, for getting into a program, you have to be first eligible for MBA law program. And eligibility comes from 50% marks minimum in your undergraduate law program, any law, LLB, BSc, LLB, BA, LLB, BBA, LLB, whatever LLB it is. So you can be a law graduate, undergraduate law, you can be a chartered accountant, you can be a company secretary, and you can be a qualified cost and management accountants. These are the 4 feeder qualifications for MBA law. Whatsoever your qualification is, you have to go through a written test. In this written test, we have 3 papers. One is logical reasoning, English, and general reasoning. That is general reasoning. And there is an English essay paper. Okay. Now, all these papers are written test conducted in-house by School of Business Management. It is not conducted in the fashion of any entrance test, but it's a written test. This is followed by a personal interview. And this personal interview is conducted by one person from the industry, one person from the alumni of NMIMS, and one person is a legal expert. So once you pass through the written test, once you pass through the personal interview, there are weightages. 60% weightage is on written tests and 40% weightage is on personal interviews. And there is some 5% weightage also is given to your past experience. And then you are ready for entering the MBA law. Of course, it's not that when you pass through all that you will be assured of an admission. No, because we generally do another level of scrutiny in terms of your score in all these three. If you have already passed NMAT entrance test, which is the entrance test for NMIMS core MBA, and if you have scored certain marks, then you can state and provided you are a chartered accountant or a lawyer or a company secretary or a cost and management accountant, then also you can avoid the written test only, but the personal interview has to be there. So that is the process of admission.
And Dr. Basu, to add to that, if you could also throw some light on the past 5 years, what's been the admission trend? Have you had more lawyers? What's been the percentage of chartered accountants?
We have majority, 90% of them are lawyers, 95% of them. We are expecting that this program will, as it goes into the industry, this program will attract more chartered accountants and cost accountants. But let me tell you one thing again. There are students who come with semi-qualification of an intermediate pass of CA, intermediate company secretaries. While doing the program, they also finish their CA and company secretary. If they do that, they are the hot products for the industry. They are just lifted just like that during from their summer internship. So that also happens, and these students are definitely encouraged by industry to be picked up first in the placement.
On the note of hot products, Dr. Basu, Mr. Payne says there is another person who wants to know that when law firms hire students who are lawyers, what is the kind of pay scale? And if they were to upskill themselves with an MBA law, what would be the kind of pay scales they would get?
It's a good question, but unfortunately, there is no correct answer to this. Pay scales for lawyers, whether it's a law firm or a corporate, substantially varies depending on the level of seniority, depending on which law school you come from, depending on which law firm do you apply to. So unfortunately, I don't have an answer to this. MBA law, now if the question is that if I do MBA law and then I reapply to that same law firm or to that same corporate, will my pay scale increase? I think obviously the answer is yes. But again, this is a function of supply and demand. It is a function of also, what the law firm really wants from that particular resource. So very difficult to estimate this. Very sorry.
No problem. Sorry. Yes, sir, Professor Subramoney.
No, I mean,
okay, I thought you wanted to say something. Dr. Basu, then do you want to tell this candidate, what are the kind of pay scales that recruiters, any details about the average pay scale?
Yeah. I think let's be honest about it. Let me show you the curve which we have in terms of placement salaries. And this is the position so far. This year, we have received the highest salary pay scale. 15.7 is the current batch which is passing out. They have not passed out, but he has already got a PPO of 15.7. He is a BBA LLB student, and he is about to finish his MBA law. So students can very transparently see these numbers. Very transparently can see these numbers that we started In the year when we started MBA Law, the first batch, the lowest salary was about 5 lakhs and the highest salary was about 9 lakhs. Over the years, this is our average pay scale. This is our average pay scale. And this is the respective year's highest salary. Let me tell you, you can see here there is a 13 lakhs highest salary. And
Sir,
then
I don't think you're sharing your screen, sir.
I'm sorry,
You
I'm
need to
sorry, I'm
share your
sorry.
screen, right?
I'm sorry. I will share the screen. Just give me 1 minute. There is some problem. Just give me 1 minute. I will share my screen. So now you can see, I'm sorry, there was some issue.
We can see, yes.
Uh,
No, it's gone away again.
okay. Now it is there.
Yes, these are your corporate partners.
Yeah, I'll show the, before that, the salary scale. When we started, the very first batch was placed at 5 lakh. That was the lowest salary. And in that year, we had 8 lakhs was the highest salary. Now, over the years 2016-18 to 2019-21, the highest salary has increased from 10.8 to 15.7. This is the pre-placement offer. During his internship, this fellow has got it. This is the COVID-19 impact because we reached 13. This is the very third year of our program. And it has come down to 10 and now it has gone up to again 15.7. I'm sure if COVID-19 pandemic would have been not there with this kind of a highest level, this would have gone higher and this would have gone higher also. So this is the fact of life position. And you can see the curve here. The peak is going up and at the moment it's we achieved the highest average salary of 9.5. Of course, both the years are affected by COVID-19 pandemic and that's the bad luck of this program. But look at the corporate partners. And I don't want to name them. You can see all the big four firms are with us. All the 3 best private banks of the country are with us. There are public sector undertakings like this. There is a private bank like this. These are the big four firms are with us. This is the multinational firm. This is again an Indian multinational and a corporate. Hewlett Packard is there with us. GMR is there. HDFC is there. Economic Loss Practice ELP is there with us. Hindustan Petroleum, IIFL, Tata AIA, Dheer and Dheer. This is what it is, Himali, from the perspective of salary and our corporate partners.
Thank you, Dr. Basu. I think that will be super helpful to students who want to apply. There is another, comment that we've got from Pratika Mishra, who's asking, do we get to choose between specific subjects that we're interested in, or do we have to do all the subjects?
It's a very good question. In fact, Nandan would know about it because we debated this issue in January in our last Board of Studies meeting. And it was the view of a group of about 15 people, 15 professionals associated with this program, is that it is still time for us to get into specialization for this program. There are 2 perspectives of it. One perspective is that you can offer a specialization when number of students are around 40 to 50, or even at least 40 minimum. And second is that this program is at the moment is a 360-degree oriented program, and we are not as of now getting into specialization like marketing, finance. So as of now, no, but it is in our contemplation. And when the Board of Studies will approve and when the ultimate academic council of the university will approve, we'll certainly introduce specialization. But one simple point, there is a 6-credit research paper. If a student wants to specialize independent learning oriented specialization, he or she can get into that area. Suppose somebody does an IPR specialization, somebody wants to do an ADR oriented research, he and she can do that. And this research paper is evaluated by a group of 3, 1 industry professional, 1 mentor who the student himself or herself selects, and one NMIMS faculty member who has not taught the program and not taught the subject. So if you ask me, is there any specialization? I'll say yes. The specialization comes to that research project as of now, but there is no elective paper in the curriculum as of now.
Thank you, Dr. Basu. Just one last question. There is a candidate who wants to know that he is a company secretary but does not have great marks. Do you look at, and also a practicing lawyer, but do you look at the company secretary marks if, you know?
No, a company secretary is definitely qualified only and only he is passing as per the regulation of the Company Secretaries Act, right? And I believe the pass marks is 50%. So if you are a qualified company secretary, that's good enough. We are not going to look at how much marks you have scored, because in any case, all these three professional programs, I'm also myself a CA and a cost accountants, we cannot pass without minimum 50% marks.
Fantastic. Thank you. I guess I'm going to allow each of you to maybe say some concluding remarks, before we wrap up for the evening. Professor Subramoney, do you want to start?
Yeah. I'd like to conclude the session by saying that this is a very, very unique program that we need to, advertise very well in this country, and we need more people to take this program, because this is going to be a definite value add to the lawyers, company secretaries, and chartered accountants, right, to come into the fold of business. So I'd like to, just wish the program all the very, very best. Right?
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
If there's any contributions that we can do for the success of this program, is what I definitely look forward to. And the wonderful program. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this panel. Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure having you, Professor Subramoney. Professor Daswani, would you like to say something?
Yeah, so very honestly, I learned about this program on the panel right now. I must confess, since I came in late, it sounds really a wonderful program. And the way I see it, and having done a bit of training for MNCs, like take the ABG group, their legal team needs to give opinion on the cement industry, on the fashion industry, on real estate, on fertilizer. So while they are lawyers there and they understand the law, they understand contracts, but they have to actually know 4 completely different verticals of businesses. So I think, for legal teams of corporate houses, I think this is a fantastic boon. Probably how they will take a couple of years off to do this program, I believe it's a full-time program. I guess they will have to probably, figure out something, or maybe, you could arrange it part-time. That's probably one suggestion, maybe coming to you from other sources as well. It would be a really, really good upper for getting the legal professionals to understand the business. And I think it's wonderful. All the best to you, Mr. Basu.
Thank you, Professor
Daswani. And once again, thank you so much for agreeing to join. Just to go on record, I think Professor Daswani walked out, after completing an international webinar, and he had, something like, say 10, like a heads up of 10 minutes, but he was already in a webinar by then.
I finished that at 6 o'clock.
Right. So exactly. So he's walked into some, and walked out of one Zoom room into another Zoom room.
See, I got my necktie on.
Mr. Pendsey, do you want to say something about, to aspiring to be corporate lawyers?
Sure. First of all, again, thank you for the opportunity. I think what I would like to say is, obviously there is a substantial value addition in this course. Whether you want to be a member of a law firm in future, or more importantly, you want to go in-house and work for a corporate. I personally feel, and maybe Mr. Basu can correct me, but from the statistics, it looks like more and more people are getting placed as an in-house counsel in corporates. And I think that's where the utility lies, more than a law firm, I believe. But again, to all the aspiring lawyers, I would say that you carefully evaluate whether this is something which will act as a value addition. If you are very clear in your mind that all this will not benefit you because your goals are completely different, you want to do code practice, you want to be a arguing lawyer, then probably this course is not meant for you. But if you're aiming to become a corporate transactional lawyer, advisory lawyer, if you're aiming to become an in-house lawyer in a corporate setup, then this is something which I would strongly recommend. You should also take a value judgment and value call, and at what point in your career you should go for this course. Uh, Obviously, fresh out of law school is something I would not recommend. Getting some work experience would be very, very helpful, I would say. So, these are the questions which you need to think about, and then probably uh, go for this course.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pendsey. Dr. Basu, so would you also recommend students to come in, lawyers to come in after a bit of work experience? Or have you had kids coming fresh out of law school? And then, of course, your concluding remarks.
Okay, first your first question. In anywhere in the world, any MBA program, business school always encourage that you come with your 2 years. Even if you are a techie, you are a computer engineer and you are joining for MBA program, if you come after 2 years of work experience, it is always helpful.
Right.
But what Professor Daswani has said, I will draw some links from there, that during a BBA LLB or BA LLB or BS LLB or social science LLB, students almost go twice in a year, minimum twice in a year as per the Bar Council of India's curriculum, to lawyers firms or corporate firms, or they intern with judges. So if you add number of hours they spend in 5 years together, that give them a fair amount of idea of what happens in the industry and how the lawyers are used up in industry. Maybe they work in different fields, doesn't matter. So that is one perspective of law students, which is an integrated 5-year law program. So if a lawyer, even after immediately after passing the law school, comes into this, it's not you will be jumping from one classroom and bench and table to another classroom of bench and table, because he has gone for many internships. But and our 60 to 70%, 60% students are without any experience per se. So this year, and we have started, Nandan, you are right, we have started getting students with more and more work experience in the current batch. The last 2 batches, the number of experience holders were more. So things are changing as the concept is getting embedded into the society in the corporate world. The experience issue is maturing up, but I don't think a student straight away from the BBA or BLLB will find himself or herself completely out of place. This is my first answer. If I have to give the concluding remark, what I will do, I'll turn back the clock to my CFO days or global group controller days, where I used to handle 40-50 billion dollars of balance sheet. And I used to always run up to the legal counsel's room and say, मुझे अपना तो release कर दीजिए, मुझे तो आपका views दे दीजिए. Or for anything and everything small, I have to go to the lawyers of my in-house corporate or to an external law firm. If I would have had an MBA law with me in those days of my CFO days or group controller, global group controller days, I would have loved at least 2 of them with me. That is my concluding remark. Because I would like to have a person who will give me a comprehensive 360-degree view of any strategic issue which has got legal application. Let me tell you, there is no business transaction today which are not having applications of law. And I love that sentence of Professor Daswani, who said, wish I would have drafted this particular clause in a different manner. I would have understood the business need of my company. I've understood the nuances of this sector of industry where I work. Like we teach environment compliance laws. I teach IPR, portfolio management of IPR. So from that perspective, I understand that, and also by testing it at the marketplace, because I am the marketer also of this program, you can say, because I am chairing this program since its inception. I think this program is gaining momentum, and but for COVID-19 pandemic, would have perhaps had a 15 lakh salary average. And I'm sure I'm looking forward to that day when MBA law will be competing with the hardcore MBA students in terms of at least CTC, because at the end of the day, let us face it, that parents spend for this program, students spend for this program.
More power to you, Dr. Basu, and to this program. Um, you know, while I am no judge, but I think I'd like to say that the future of work in the era of convergence is going to be very different than what it was or is. And, this time the COVID-19 pandemic has only emphasized that. I hope all of you have taken something from this discussion. Have a great weekend ahead. Thank you very much for being a part of
Thank
this.
you, Himali, for conducting this program. Thank you so much for Professor Daswani, and it is a really hectic for you. And I know how to hop in and hop out from various digital rooms. Thank you, Professor Shankar. Thank you, Nandan, for helping
Thank
us.
you.
I will
Thank you,
definitely
everybody.
remember.
Thank
I'll
you.
definitely remember. Nandan is with me, supporting me. Right, I know him since my corporate days. He was one of my area council, business area council, in terms of IPRs, etc. I will definitely keep you people in mind when we go for the forward path, and I would like to draw strength from you in future. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks to Times of India for giving us this opportunity and use their platform for reaching this program to the world at large. And I wish all the very best to students who are aspiring to be an MBA law in future. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank you.
very much, gentlemen. Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Himali, for hosting it.
Thank you
Thank
very much,
you.
Imani.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Daswani. Thank you, Nandan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Okay. Bye.